In today's episode, you will learn why infidelities occur in relationships. Infidelities in relationships have probably always happened. Today's times are nothing surprising. What has changed, however, are the rules of social coexistence, or to be more precise, the moral rules have loosened. What was once socially stigmatized is no longer the case today. It is becoming the norm. Seemingly not much, but as you will soon understand, it is a very significant difference. The biological goals of men and women in terms of reproduction are different. For scientists, and more specifically evolutionary biologists, this is no surprise. This is already a well-studied aspect. These are so-called reproductive strategies for men and women. The motives for cheating are different. The consequences of cheating are also different from an evolutionary point of view. I will discuss reproductive strategies in detail in future episodes, as this is a very important topic that you need to know about. For a better understanding of this episode, I will only highlight the biological basic strategies. Men first look for sexual partners who are attractive and available to them. This is what men find attractive. This is our nature. Only in the second place do they think about possible relationships with them. Women, on the other hand, are looking for the best possible genes for their offspring and the best possible opportunity to take over or use a man's resources with all the options available to her. This is attractive to them. This is their nature. Nature does not care about anyone's happiness, only about reproduction and sustaining the species. It does this using feelings and hormones. There is no need to take offense at this state of affairs. These are the rules of the game. This is pure biology. Now that we know what are the basic criteria that men and women follow, that is, we know what supply and demand in the matrimonial market, and we know that both parties have what each other is looking for, we can answer the question, why do they cheat? The most beautiful answer is that they cheat because they can, that is. Men cheat because they find sexual partners who agree to cohabitate with them. If no woman were willing to voluntarily sleep with a man, the number of betrayals would be practically zero. If a man does not represent the qualities that are desired by the ladies, his value on the matrimonial market and, in particular, his chances for sex drop to practically zero. A special term has even been coined for men who cannot attract women to them and are celibate not of their own free will. They would like to, but can't. This name is incel. The availability and very high effectiveness of contraceptives, for example, birth control pills are almost 100%, condoms are about 95%. In addition, it makes the unwanted consequences of sex in the form of pregnancy virtually non-existent, so there is no incentive to urge prudent sexual behavior. Sex can be and is used instrumentally. A large number of sexual partners has negative consequences for women other than motherhood in the form of difficulties in forming and maintaining lasting bonds and relationships. The magnitude of these problems is directly proportional to the number of sexual partners, but I will talk about this in a separate episode. Men who have strong genes or demonstrate behaviors characteristic of such genes, or who have resources that ladies report a demand for, can in principle be assured of finding a sex partner. This is because women are hypergamous in nature and because the social norms mentioned earlier have been relaxed. In fact, from the point of view of a man with these characteristics, he is living in ideal times. Never before in history has access to sex been as easy and widespread as it is today. You just have to remember that you must have the qualities desired by the ladies. Otherwise, it won't go through. If a man is working for a relatively low salary and, in addition, does not have the personality traits that ladies subconsciously adore, he doesn't have much choice even to find a permanent partner, not even to mention betraying her. Because how can you cheat on a woman you don't have? If, on the other hand, his financial situation improves, he will start earning good money. Good is, of course, a subjective statement. Then before you know it, the lady will realize that such a man has become, in quotation marks, a good deal, better clothes, or whether a car is a sign of money and money is a sign of higher social status, and for this women automatically make a demand, that is, they want it. It can be said that women will begin to love such a man very quickly. Of course, love is just a rationalization here. Because, supposedly, why didn't ladies love such a man before when he earned little? Uninformed men don't like it when a woman flies on his cash. They sense that they are not the object of such a woman's interest. Ladies know this, so they say what's pleasing to the ear because they don't want to reduce the chances of reproductive success. Such is life, gentlemen. I wish you all had a lot of money, but I know that won't happen. So I wish you at least once to have more money and enjoy life for 6 months or a year, because then you will experience firsthand what kind of women will be interested in you. One that you did not have access to before, until you experience it. You won't believe it happens, and I'm not surprised at all, because a few years ago I thought that these were boasts, and it's not true, because in the movies the most important thing was love, not money. Today, when I have experienced this aspect of life in practice, I already know the rules of the game and do not resent them. Although at first I couldn't believe it and found it very hard to accept. For a woman who has been betrayed by a man, betrayal is very painful because things happen on a subconscious level. First, betrayal most often means the risk that another woman may take her place at such a man's side, and thus she may be the one to take control of his resources. This fear is basic, but from an evolutionary point of view, as rational as possible. The resources that a man may have provided and the ability to use them while raising offspring come into question, and this threatens survival. So there is fear for the future. The second reason is self-esteem. If another woman has been able to attract a man who has so far been devoted to her, it automatically means to the reptile brain that the betrayed woman loses her attractiveness and her sex appeal. A woman's decreased attractiveness means that the pool of men from which such a woman will be able to choose inevitably decreases. Thus, at a basic subconscious level, there is another understandable reason for fear activated by the reptilian brain, since the consequences of such a betrayal can affect survival for the woman and, in the future, the woman with a child. Such behavior patterns are a remnant of evolution, but as evolution is a slow process, brains still interpret such behavior as a threat. Since these two mechanisms are subconscious, you will very often hear from women that this does not apply to them because they are different, strong, and independent. But don't be fooled. The rules in nature are as follows. The woman is the guardian of sex or pleasure. The man is the guardian of the relationship. This means that if a man does not want to enter into a monogamous relationship with a woman, it is the woman who has the problem, not the man, because he is the one who decides on commitment, and he can get sex from another woman. These are the rules of the game. The ladies don't want you to know this because it's not in their interest. Such knowledge stands in the way of realizing a biological goal or a biological reproductive strategy, because if you know this, it will be impossible to make you believe that it is the woman who decides, and this means for you at least an equal position in the relationship. You have to know your true value, and then the floodgates will open wide. With this knowledge, you will be able to decide how to act today. Without this knowledge, you are doomed to whatever happens to you. You are the passengers, not the driver. In conclusion, men cheat because they can and because it is a biologically programmed strategy of action. Of course, it would be good to control your urges so that you can control them, rather than the other way around, but I know that this is not always possible, and without training it is downright impossible. Men are deterred from cheating by the lack of opportunity to cheat and the smarter one's possible consequences that may follow. For example, a ruling of guilt in divorce. There is no way to protect oneself from betrayal if someone has decided to cheat. You will find a way to do it. This applies to both men and women. After all, you can't lock anyone in a house and detain them against their will. The threat of doing so is imprisonment. Women, on the other hand, cheat because they can, at least as long as they are physically attractive and desirable to men, and because their hypergamous nature tells them to look for the best possible available man if they cheat. It's because they think that through sex they will be able to get a man who promises a better chance of good genes or has a higher social status than their current one. This is an evolutionary reproductive strategy to cause such a man to decide to enter into a relationship with a woman, and thus she will gain access to his resources. If such an operation is successful, she will very quickly forget about the betrayed man. The mechanism of denial will work so that the woman will not despair too much and will not feel remorse. Remember that this is a primal and subconscious behavior, and knowledge of this is not widely available. That's why almost no one talks about it out loud, because, first of all, they don't know about it. Secondly, selfishness dictates not to share such effective knowledge. Thirdly, men living in the matrix, that is, believe the image of relationships presented in the mainstream. Until they see for themselves what the rules of the game are, they won't believe it anyway. They will reject and repress reality. On the other hand, those who know this benefit because they have an advantage in the female-male market. Again, there is no need to take offense at biology because these are the rules of the game. That's why I'm talking about them, because you need to know about them. It's no secret that women generally have a much greater ease in establishing intimate relationships than men. The more attractive women are, the greater the ease. This is because men are looking for sex first, and women are the gatekeepers. They are the ones who decide if, to whom, and when they will give themselves away. Men are the ones courting them, not the other way around. At least up to a certain point. It is very common for a woman who has cheated to do so because she hoped to gain an advantage this way. However, over time she finds out that the man only wanted physical pleasure from her, not to enter into a long-term relationship. If the operation fails, then there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. A woman, if she does not have other men around her who are promising for a relationship, is so-called. Orbiters will try to return to the betrayed to a man not out of love, but because there are no other options, and women do not like to be alone. Such a woman, first of all, will never directly, voluntarily admit to the betrayal. She will classically deny anything. This is classic to protect such a woman's ego from accepting that she has hurt someone. Secondly, she will try to put the responsibility for her act on you, saying, for example, that it's all your fault because she didn't know what was going to happen to you. That you don't know what it was like, but surely there was no betrayal and you misunderstood everything and are picking on each other, that if you loved her you would never even think that. Even if you catch a woman in the act, you'll hear a text like it's not what you think. She's just lying here and everything. If she's a seasoned manipulator, and on average a woman is much better at this than men, she may even try to tell you that it's your fault that you caught her and give you the impression that it was you who did something wrong, not her. Such behavior is also a reproductive strategy. Thanks to such behavior, we as humanity have survived and evolved. Women as future or then current mothers had to behave this way because they were increasing the chances of their own survival and that of their children, i.e., our ancestors and great-ancestors. If a woman consented to bad genes, she automatically assumed the risk that the children might be weaker and thus might not survive. Only now is medicine developed to the point where infant mortality is low. In the past, it was not so good. Pregnancy and child rearing, which in the case of humans are 100% dependent on the parents for the first years, makes an attempt to ensure the strongest genes and resources possible as evolutionarily justified and understandable from a practical point of view. At this point, even more so if you have recently taken the red pill, you may think that I'm excusing women. Meanwhile, the opposite is true. I don't judge or condemn them at all because I understand. I simply accepted that this is nature. I don't accept infidelity and try to prevent it, but I also don't suffer from the fact that this is the way the world is. Although I remember very well that it was nothing pleasant at first, this experience has also made me know how the subconscious works and what real motivations drive people. In searching for answers, I also learned when and how you were cheated. For a man who discovers that he has been betrayed, two issues arise in his mind. First, betrayal means that someone has failed his trust. Where from an evolutionary point of view, trust within a community was a fundamental issue. For example, on a dangerous hunt, hunters had to trust each other that one would do what he announced or that he would carry out the plan. Otherwise, the hunt could have ended in death for the hunter. In the social sphere, a relationship understood as a family is the most basic community, so you should be able to trust it. However, boundless trust without control in this day and age is, in my opinion, a very imprudent and naive tactic. The second reason why betrayal is so unpleasant has a more practical dimension. The consequence of infidelity for a man can be raising offspring that are not his own. If you realize, for example, after 30 years, as a result of some unfortunate accident, you have to donate blood and it turns out that the blood type is not compatible with yours, or you find out in any other way, then from an evolutionary point of view, the game is over. You have lost. You have devoted time and considerable resources to not your child or children. For the average man, then, it's over the competition because there will be no more time and resources for another child or children. Check and mate. Unless you are a wealthy man of high social standing, you still have some chance. Otherwise, it's over. Betrayal is certainly not pleasant, but I'm afraid it's inevitable for most nice guys. I just hope that if you can't avoid it, that you experience it sooner rather than later. To understand more quickly the rules of the game you are playing and to incur the least possible cost of this lesson. In an ideal world, it should be the case that a partner or partner is honest and informs you of their intentions. This would allow the other party to take some action, but we don't live in an ideal world. In love and war, old tricks are allowed, so you need to learn the arsenal of these tricks.